Let's bring in Fox and Friends weekend host and probably all things Fox Nation, Pete Hegseth. Thanks for joining us on the Bottom Line.
It's great to be here.
Second time here with us.
Yes, anytime you need me.
You're looking very rustic today. Thank you.
I try.
You do. So what do you make of this? Where Joe Biden says one thing to Democrats, like, hey, listen, I'm going to stick with D.C., but then flip-flops, and you have Democrats now saying fudge and outrage.
I don't know. Is it all? It feels like all politics at this point on this particular issue. I mean, Joe Biden spent years trying to be a tough-on-crime guy. Then he got elected to look like Bernie Sanders. He jumped in with the defund police movement, as did the entire White House. That's where the activist base is on the Democrat side. So this legislation, which would have basically ripped away any consequences for criminals in Washington, D.C., the mayor tried to veto it, surprisingly. Ultimately, the House and Senate, because D.C. is not a state, had the opportunity to chime in. And the White House, I don't know, he's got to look around and say if he really is running for re-election, which I think still is an open question, you want to be able to have something to point to try to divorce yourself from the lunatic base of the Democrat Party, which is effectively letting criminals run the show. And D.C.'s as bad as it gets. There might also be a little bit of self-interest here. He lives there most of the time when he's not on vacation and doesn't want it to be run by criminals either.
With security, though.
With his own private security, yes.
I think that there are deeper roots in this because, again, he treats D.C. as he should, as it's not a state. And there's this huge push among the left, and it's not the far left wingnut lunatics. It's people.
It's the base of the Democrat Party.
It's the base of the Democrat Party to make D.C. a state, to make Puerto Rico a state, to expand the number of seats that the Democrats control in the Senate, get rid of the legislative filibuster so they will always have control of the Senate. So I think that there's a deeper root in that, because if you read some of the commentary.
But he's throwing a wrench in that.
Right, exactly. That's why they're
so outraged right now. It's like he made a pragmatic, purely political decision where he's been saying, like every other Democrat, we want these 4 additional senators. That's basically what they're saying from these 2 locations if they were made states. Ultimately, this guy, I don't know what he plans to do.
But I love that Democrats are kind of upset. They voted to uphold the new rules that came from the D.C. Council, thinking that's what Joe Biden wanted, as opposed to doing what's right to go, these guys are crazy. I actually, as a member of Congress, live in this town.
Yep.
And so I'm going to vote to overturn the rules like the mayor did and what Joe Biden said he was going to do. The problem was they were duped by Joe. They thought Joe would veto any bill that came from the House. And once he said he wasn't, they're like, oh, God, I got stuck voting for a garbage package where if I knew Joe was going to veto it, I, too, would have been on that side as well, because this is crazy town.
So they knew they were counting on top cover.
Yes.
That never came in for them.
Yes.
And now they've got to vote on this bill, which would effectively get rid of all consequences. And we could see an 80-20 vote. Yeah. And I don't know what we'll ultimately see, but not a lot of Democrats want to be on the record for this. By the way, can anybody just read the Constitution? Like, ultimately, there's a reason why Washington, D.C. is not a state, because that has tons of problems that come with it.
Speaking of the crazy finally comes for the Merchant Marines, midshipmen at the Merchant Marine Academy speaking out about several instances of woke practices creeping into the curriculum under the leadership of Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. Well, it's about time, right, Pete? The complete left-wing liberalism has overtaken the entire Defense Department.
Any single institution based on merit must be torn down by the diversity, equity, inclusion crowd, which it shouldn't be DEI. It should actually be DIE, die. Like, if you want to kill who we are, let's call it DIE, because the examples are in the article that highlight this are numerous. There's a mural of Christ on the seas, right? That's been at this institution for years because so many sailors in World War II, when they were dying, merchant marines, appealed to God. Yeah. Instead, that's been now first covered, then moved to the library so it can be a part of yesterday, right? That's how they want to view it. While they're celebrating the LGBT flag and pride shirts and murals all over the campus, this is the latest domino to publicly fall. And this is because, interestingly enough, the Merchant Marines fall under the Transportation Department, even though it's a military academy of a different sort. Why would Pete Buttigieg not be pursuing this agenda? And he nominated a new superintendent. I don't know all of her politics, but she's happy to do the bidding. So you bring in a new admiral that's a political admiral that will push all the DEI, CRT, ESG stuff in, well, probably not ESG, but all the other stuff into this universe. The more we bring in civilian professors, too, also, this happened at West Point, it happened at the Naval Academy, they bring in the same ideas they bring to universities across the country. And now you get officers or naval officers in the future who are more worried about sex, gender, and race than they are about, I don't know.
And there was a time that the government actually served the people, and there was some politics on the edges, but really there was no politics inside of the American government. And to your point today,
especially the military,
they have been consumed with politics, and so they're pushing a political agenda in the military, but at FBI, DOJ, education, and that political agenda that's being advanced, they're using our taxpayer money to do it, Pete.
Oh, they are, and it's on hyperdrive. So you can look at a lot of these trends, and they started in the Clinton era. Yeah. They were put on, they were boosted during Obama, and then a lot of Republicans didn't do much in the interim to stop it. And so the political generals kept moving with the flow of where they saw things going. And under Biden, with all these first nominations, right? First female this, first trans this, first whatever. Again, it signals it's not about who the best person is in this situation. It's about what first box can we check. And of course, they're going to follow the political prerogatives of leadership, which Pete Buttigieg not focused on like making sure flights are on time or trains stay on the tracks. He has a social agenda, and now you see it at yet another institution.
But of all of these institutions, this degrading our safety and security and defense should worry us the most. And we've talked about this endlessly. But Mark Milley talking about, when asked why CRT should be taught at West Point, said, well, I want to understand white rage, and then had to walk that back. And then I started doing a deep dive, because I'm a nerd, into some of the stuff that goes on in the military and the modules in the U.S. Army. One of the vignettes is how to talk to a serviceman to discuss his newly confirmed pregnancy.
It's rampant. I don't know if you're going to be able to say
I'm not
yes,
making this up.
Yes, sir, or yes, ma'am. I'm surprised the Merchant Academy still has midshipmen. That sounds really sexist. Yeah. Probably should change that, because that'll make them better at being captains of their ships. None of it makes sense unless you want to destroy these institutions, or at least neuter them to control them, which you see across the spectrum. You're exactly right.
And then pump out all these little woke lefties into culture.
And then the COVID vaccine, the Merchant Marine was one of the worst on cracking down on COVID vaccines. Yeah. So you push out people who have a principled position about their own personal health.
Push out the Patriots.
Who are those people? Push out the Patriots, push out able-bodied folks.
You couldn't eat in the dining hall in the Merchant Marine Academy unless you're vaccinated. You had to take your food out and eat alone.
Or let's go to something a little more uplifting here. Pete needs a good story. Yes.
Okay.
Oh, Mr. Sunshine over here.
One of the coolest parts of your job is that you get to travel all over the country and talk to people about things that matter to them. And a few weeks ago, you spoke to a group of young men. I love this. Take a listen.
You really don't see a lot of kids, like you said. I mean, like, we all kind of agree that you don't see a lot of people that are out there actually, like, trying to make money, and they will never understand the real value of a dollar if they keep having to pay it to the government.
I think this whole generation is spoiled, and most of their parents pay for everything they have, so they don't learn to work.
And when their parents buy everything they have, they don't know what money's worth. So they don't want to get no job, so they don't want to work.
So I tell you what, I love this, because so often, Pete, I get discouraged by what's happening. I think Republicans are in strategic retreat. Oftentimes I think Republicans, conservatism, traditionalism is losing. But I watch a video like that, and I think they're future farmers of America, or they're part of that group.
They are.
And I've met a lot of them. And when you meet farm kids, I have hope in America again, because they're like driving combines at 10 years old, like $1 million piece of equipment. They can fix stuff. They can change oil. It's what America used to be probably in the 50s and 60s.
Absolutely. I get dispirited just like you do. You look around at the cultural carnage, and what these boys right there, and that was in North Carolina, they showed up early. They stuck around. They said they had to leave right after because they had to go to school and then go to work after that. They have good parents.
Yeah.
And I think if you're dispirited right now, and rightfully so, focus on what you can affect, which is your kids and your grandkids, how you raise them, how you introduce them to faith, the respect and hard work you show them, and then where you send them to school. Because as dark as times are right now, there's actually a resurgence of patriots, Christians, and others who are saying, I'm going to take the education and development of my kids back. I'm not giving it over to the state. And as a result, in 20 years, yes, the culture may be even worse. Who knows when we're here in 20 years? But there'll be at least the seeds of kids who know better and will do something about it.
He does get down.
I do.
I understand it. I do too.
He gets, and I'm the biggest like grump bucket, and I'm not as like
She's optimistic. She's a ray of sunshine.
And I am not. What town was that in North Carolina?
That was in Carthage, North Carolina.
I know where Carthage is.
Yeah.
But I, like, even here in New York City, and I told him this story recently, I went into a bodega, and there was a young woman working behind the register. Some man went, "You look tired." And she said, "Of course I'm tired. I do a 12-hour shift here. My family owns this bodega." Of course, she doesn't speak like this. And she said, "I do a 12-hour shift here, and then I was making a video on YouTube for a friend of mine, and I sell real estate now in Queens." And she's like, "And I'm going to get out of here."
You know what?
And so if you talk, even if it's not your own kids, even if it's not family members, just talk to some person and ask them like how hard they work and just why they're here in this country. Man, it's just the most uplifting experience.
Pete, I think you would agree with me. I served in Congress, and I couldn't change America. I had limited impact. So I thought, how do I actually change America? I save America by saving my family.
100%.
That's the greatest impact I can have on the culture and the future of this country is raising good kids. Like you said, sending them to good schools, making sure you get them out of the woke institutions. And it might cost a little more money. You might have to go, hey, could Aunt Dagan help me out a little bit? Give us some cash so we can actually get into a good school. But it's part of an American movement.
It's why I always say parents and grandparents.
Yes.
Because grandparents may have disposable income that the parents don't. Support those parents in choosing an institution they can go to. And stop giving to your alma mater.
Yes.
Don't do that.
Oh,
I mean, what your point, you're basically just send it to the Democrat Party instead. It'd be easier and faster.
I don't give to Wake Forest.
I mailed my degree back, so
I don't
I'm
give
with
to Wake
you.
Forest. It was terrible.
No reason to.
I thought you were going to burn it on air, but you send it back. We'll still
That's
take
what
that.
Rachel wanted you to do, was to burn it. And she's like, you didn't burn it. And I'm like, no, I'm not
Send
going to
it
burn it. I'm
back.
just going to send it back.
Pete's a fire hazard. Pete Hegseth,
Thanks
for
guys.
joining us. See you tomorrow morning.